Thank you for joining us here today for your Saturday morning. We definitely appreciate every single one of you guys that are spending today with us. So today is our third and final Wahine Wellness series. So we're very sad that it's the end of this series, but we also are going to be having another series coming up. It's called Creative Coping. That is also going to have 3 workshops as well, and it is a little bit different. So the Wahine Wellness series, it is dedicated to empowering and uplifting women and girls in Hawaii, and of course, men are welcome. Thank you, JR, in the back. But yeah, so today's workshop, we will be led on a journey to create healthier lifestyle boundaries. So today's workshop is presented by the Samaritan Counseling Center Hawai'i and NAMI Hawaii's Executive Director, Kumi. Woohoo! Thank you, Kumi. So if you guys are unfamiliar with what NAMI is, they are the nation's largest mental health organization. They're dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans. And NAMI has organizations and affiliates in every state. NAMI provides advocacy, research, support, and education about mental health illness to residents of Hawaii. So my name is Katie. I'm the event coordinator for the Samaritan Counseling Center. Samaritan Counseling Center is a nonprofit organization that provides professional and accessible mental health counseling, and we believe that spirituality can be a source in the healing process, and we don't turn anybody away due to financial reasons. So today we just want to kind of create a safe space where you can be yourself, express yourself, feel supported, and most importantly, we're trying to have fun today, guys. So that's what we're all about. So again, I just want to thank Kumi, who will be leading our presentation, who in her free time, she likes to spend it with us, and we hope that we can do events in the future. So we are very, very appreciative of having you here and making today possible. And then just want to remind you guys that today's workshop is meant for learning and growth, and it's not necessarily a substitute for therapy. And then just to kind of go over a couple of housekeeping, we want to keep this space better than we found it, so we can continue to have events here in the future. And then I'm not too sure if you guys saw, the restrooms are going to be right out this door, and then you guys are free to, go if you need to go. And then just to let you guys know that we are going to be recording parts of the event. Anything that you share will not be recorded. So again, we want to emphasize that we're creating that safe space. So yeah, that's about it. And then at the end, we hope to take a group picture if you guys are willing. Like, we definitely respect your wishes if you don't want to be in it. That's totally fine, but we do have surveys at the end. If you guys don't mind filling one out, so we can continue to better our future events. And then we have these affirmations to give out for you guys if you turn in a survey. So yeah, I'll give it over to Kumi. Yeah.
Thanks, Katie. Well, hi everyone. There's a lot of familiar faces and there's some new faces, so we're grateful that you made it this morning. I am the Executive Director of NAMI Hawaii, and I do not have any fancy initials behind my name. I am a person of lived experience, and that's what NAMI is about. We share our personal journeys. We don't tell anybody else how to live their lives or their mental health recovery. So I'm just sharing what I've learned. And so I'll go over some of that as we go through this presentation, but just wanted to share that a lot of what I'm going to be sharing is what I've learned from different YouTube teachers. Also, a lot of it comes from Dr. Henry Cloud. He wrote the book called Boundaries. It was a big bestseller back in the 90s, and I must have read it 6 times I've taught this course, I've taught the workbook, it comes with a workbook and so forth, and I've taught that multiple times in different group settings because this is my lived experience. This is my journey. So again, that book is based on psychology, written by 2 psychologists. I'll give more information at the end about that book. But again, we want you to, it's not faith-based in any way today. It's not anything to pick and choose what you will and learn from it, and I'll go over some of that in a little bit. So again, I am not no psychiatrist, no therapist, nurse practitioner, any of that, but I am the executive director, and I've been with NAMI for about 9 years, and I just love what we do. So we are the largest grassroots mental health organization in the nation, and we provide free programming statewide whenever we do a conference, a workshop, our charity walk. I'll have our walk manager share at the end, but we just do everything for our community about mental health, bringing awareness, educating and supporting our loved ones, our family members who are the caregivers of people with mental health conditions. So everything is free statewide. Our programs include support, education, advocacy, and awareness. And majority of our programs are geared around family-to-family education, which some of you may have taken, but it's an 8-week course on how family members can support someone who's going through a mental health condition. And then we have some family support groups. And then we also have peer-to-peer, which is an 8-week course for people living in recovery from a mental health condition. And then we also have peer support groups for people living with mental health conditions. All right. So today we have some guidelines. And one is that we want you to know today's a safe space. So we may have some discussions, some breakouts. We're not going to record you. Rochelle, we trust her. Oh, by the way, Rochelle, can you say hi? She's the executive director of Samaritan Counseling, a dear friend of mine, a dear friend of NAMI's, and we work together for how many years now? 3 or 4 years? But we've been a great partnership, and we just love them. So this is a safe space, so please feel free to share, and we will ask that you keep everything anonymous, and then please come with an open mind and an open heart. Right? Take what you will, what you feel will apply to your life. Because again, I'm just sharing from my experience. I'm not an expert. So take with what you feel will work for you, right? Maintain confidentiality of all participants. So we're gonna make some new friends today. Don't go, oh yeah, she was at the workshop, da 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 da. You know, we don't say that. Or if you're gonna post on social media, make sure you get permission from someone that you may have taken a photo of and so forth. But maintain confidentiality. What shared here stays here. Again, take from the program what you feel will help you. Leave it. It's like, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't like that. That's fine. Learn what you want to learn and leave the rest. And this is for educational purposes only. Please talk to your own therapist or counselor if you need more help. Okay. All right. So these are the objectives today. We're just going to go over what does a life without boundaries look like? And I'm going to share from my experience. What are boundaries? What is that? What's the definition? What are the different types of boundaries? How are boundaries developed with family, friends, and partners? How to exercise saying no. We're going to actually do some group work on that. And then how to measure progress. Like, how do you know when you're doing better? Like, what are the signs to see when you're improving? I have created these little notebooks for you, journals for you to take notes. What I encourage you to do is, you can interrupt me at any time to ask a question, right? But if you ask a question it might accidentally leak into the video. But when we do our group work or Q&A portions, we will not record them. But take notes. If you have questions, you can write down the questions, because sometimes I might speak quickly and you go, oh, boundaries with developing boundaries. Oh, I have a question about that. But then at the end, during Q&A, what was that question I was going to ask? We might forget. So take notes. I will give you these slides after our event is over. We will email them to you. So you don't have to take notes like, oh, You don't have to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll send those to you, but if something applies to you personally, go ahead and take notes in that. Okay? Let's see. All right, so life without, wait, did I finish that? Okay, so we're gonna talk about what, oh yeah, I did that, okay. By the way, I'm not on my A game. I'm just gonna give you a heads up. We're in a safe space, so I just lost my mother 2 weeks ago. This morning, we're planning her funeral, so my brain's a little loopy, so I might go, but I'm here, and I'm doing well. So, life without boundaries. Life without boundaries looks like when you do everything for everyone else and you put yourself last. That's what boundaries look like. When you never say no. You say yes to everybody. Everybody asks for help. Everybody needs money. Everybody needs you to sign up for their committee. We go, okay, yeah, right? When you start to resent friends and families for asking for favors, oh my gosh, my dad's gonna ask me for another favor. Oh my goodness, my sister's coming. She's gonna ask me to babysit. So when you start feeling like that, you know that maybe don't have good boundaries. When you resent family for not offering to help you, that was a big one for me because I feel like, why am I always the one, like today's funeral meeting this early this morning, I didn't bring anything. Usually I make musubis or brownies or something to take. I didn't take anything. And usually I would, the old me might have said, man, how come I always have to bring the musubis? But today I didn't bring it, and my sisters I brought cornbread, here's cookies. So, it's nice when the families do that. But the old me was, I would resent them. How come they're not helping? I'm doing everything, right? And then I was fearful and angry. So my story starts off as I was a middle child of a pastor. So my parents we were all born in Japan, and I lived there till I was age 5. So they were a Christian pastor, so they were already in the minority in Japan. So being from a war generation, being a pastor, serving the community, right? And then we emigrated to America, where now we're the immigrants, and we are now like looked on as, we're the foreigners, we better behave, we gotta be the best, we're in a fishbowl. So this toxic upbringing, this mentality, also the Japanese idea of constantly improving, perfectionism. There's some good in that, but when you take it to the extreme, it becomes a life without boundaries. So I saw my parents give to everybody else, and very little was left for us kids. So one of my first memories I have is when I was a little kid in Japan, we were so poor. And somebody came and gave us, my mother, oh, here's some candy for your kids. And then a couple hours later, another family came to visit, and she gave that candy away to them. And I was like, that was one of my first memories. I was like 3 years old, but that was very traumatic to me because we don't get to get candy, and you just gave our candy away. So that's life without boundaries of being like that. So when I got married, I thought I was being a good wife. I did everything for my husband. I was I don't know, it's very American sounding, but I was a very typical Japanese housewife. I cooked, cleaned, did everything. I wanted to do it. I stayed home to raise my kids. I worked part-time when they were little, but I ended up being the classroom mom at school, volunteering for we call it APT, not PTA, but the parent-teacher groups. I was the Sunday school teacher at my church. I was the women's Bible study teacher. I was brought the youth dinner on Friday nights. I was doing everything, right? I did all the babysitting for all my friends who worked every Easter. Every spring break, every fall break, every winter break. Kumi, we can count on Kumi, and sometimes I have 10 kids in my house. And I would do it for free, no money. That was me. Totally no boundaries. Because I thought I had to be a good little Christian girl and just be yes, and do everything for everyone else. Then I would say it started to catch up to me. And finally, I started reading this book. It really changed my life. And little by little, it started to make a difference. It takes a while. And I'm going to share some of the tips as we go along. But the biggest kicker was when my mother had a stroke 6.5 years ago. And I was getting up at 3 a.m., going for my morning run, come back, shower, make breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my parents, go to work, take care of my son, my kids, come home. And I was just doing that nonstop. And I collapsed. My physical body finally shut down. And I came down with a condition called chronic fatigue syndrome. You might know it's similar to long-term COVID, like you hear that, where people just are in constant pain and fatigue and, stuck in bed. So that was me for several years. And I'm not 100%, but slowly recovering. So that was the complete point where I said, okay, that's it. And I started to cut more and more out, and I had much better boundaries. So that was my life. That's what a toxic, crazy life without boundaries looks like. So now we're gonna go discussions. You won't be recorded, but I wanted you to come, if you feel safe, I want you to share what is something in the past few weeks that maybe you said yes to that you later regretted, like, oh, darn, I shouldn't have said yes. And all of us have that. Like me, for me, I have much better boundaries. But even then, sometimes I go, oh, shoots, I should have thought that through and I should have said yes. So is there anything that, even small kind thing, it doesn't have to be a fantastic, huge thing, but something small. Anybody want to share? Or we can go around the, can I set limits and still be a loving person? Yeah, you think? What are legitimate boundaries? And what is it being selfish? Is it a legitimate boundary or is it selfishness? Right? Those are some things we'll discuss. What if someone gets mad or hurt by my boundaries? Oh yes, I have people who were PO'd at me. I have in-laws who don't talk to me anymore. But that's okay because I'm at peace. Okay. All right, so this is one of my favorites. Quotes because I live by this. Every time I feel my life energy is being sucked dry by work, stress, taking care of mom, or whatever, I always go back to this. Above all else, guard your heart with all diligence, is what it says in another version. For it is the wellspring of life. You cannot give life to anybody. You cannot help anybody. You cannot give love to anybody if you are not guarding your heart and protecting your boundaries. So I just live by that. I love that quote. Okay. So we're going to talk about what are boundaries. This is just a general definition. It is an invisible property line and responsibilities. Right? It's invisible. We can't always see it. Things that differentiate you from someone else. So when you feel like, I'm sorry, your name was Holly. So for you say, I can't even leave without asking permission, right? There wasn't that separation where now you are separating, right? So when you can't find that clear definition of where you start and where someone else begins, that's an issue. And saying no to one thing is saying yes to something else. So today we're going to learn no, but no really just means yes to something better. And that's what I want you to remember too, is that when you say no to babysitting 10 kids on a holiday, it means yes to my peace of mind, my energy for my own family, my love and energy for my own husband, my children, right? So you say no, you're saying yes to something else. Also, it is kind and loving to set boundaries. Yes, did I tick off my sister-in-law that doesn't talk to me anymore? Yes, but it's because it's with love. I had to set those boundaries for my sanity, for the sanity of my family, and for her benefit, right? So she has substance use disorder, so we had to cut those ties until she's ready to get help. And we keep putting that out there. Yes, we will help you when you're ready for it, but she's not ready for it. So we had to cut that tie. But it's out of love that we're doing it, not because I hate her. I don't hate her. I love her. But I'm doing it for her too, not just for me. And it's also being truthful. right? Because when you reluctantly say, okay, and then tell you, I don't want to go to that party, you're actually being a liar. Do you want to be a liar? No, right? Because we're all good people. That's why you are always being so kind to everyone else. So saying no is actually being honest. And honesty really is the best policy, right? Okay. So this is a little clip. So Samaritan Counseling, again, we're not teaching any religious thing here. It's just a story. And what it is, we always hear about the Good Samaritan, right? Everybody have heard of the Good Samaritan, right? So we're just going to watch this little video clip of the story. I thought it was kind of cute, so.
God's story, the Good Samaritan.
Just listen.
So part of God's story is about a Good Samaritan. And it goes like this. When Jesus lived on earth, he often told stories to teach us things. Stories that teach a lesson are called parables. One day, Jesus told a parable about a good guy from a place called Samaria, a Good Samaritan, to a group of Jewish people. It all started when a Jewish expert in the law asked Jesus, "What must I do to receive eternal life?" Basically, he was asking, what do I have to do to be perfect? Since this guy was an expert in the law, he thought he already knew how to be perfect because he knew all the rules. He just wanted to see what Jesus would say. Of course, Jesus knew what the man was thinking, so he asked him, "What is written in the law?" The man said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love him with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as you love yourself." So he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus answered him by telling this story. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Everybody listening was Jewish, and they could probably all picture the exact road Jesus was talking about. He continued, "A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side." You might expect a priest who was supposed to serve God to help, but he didn't stop. Then Jesus said, a Levite came to the place and saw him, but he passed by on the other side too. Levites were assistants to priests, so maybe you'd expect them to help too, but he didn't stop either. Finally, Jesus said, a Samaritan came along. Remember, a Samaritan is a person from Samaria. That's near Israel, where God's family, the Jews, lived. But here's the thing. Jews and Samaritans didn't get along. In fact, nobody hearing this story would ever expect a Samaritan to help, because Samaritans and Jews couldn't stand each other. But Jesus said, when the Samaritan saw the man, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took out money and gave it to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will pay you back for any extra expense you have." Then Jesus asked, "Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The expert in the law didn't even want to say the word Samaritan, but he admitted, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." In other words, go and love everyone, even people we don't like or people who everybody else wants to avoid. See, when we show love, we're obeying Jesus.
Okay, so what I wanted to share about this was that we all kind of hear that phrase, Good Samaritan, right? And we always are told, yeah, we need to help people when somebody's on the road that needs help or somebody's in need. We want to help them, or there's a Good Samaritan law. There's this law that says if someone offers help and let's say they see somebody who's has cardiac arrest and they're helping them but they died anyways, you can't sue the Good Samaritan because they're just trying to help. So we hear this word often, right? We are told in America, yes, we help our neighbors, we're community. Whether you are a faith person or not, we know that word. But one thing that really impacted me about this story was, according to what I've been studying in the Boundaries book also, is that the Good Samaritan had really good boundaries. He really did. So, yes, he did help his neighbor. Yes, he helped someone that wasn't, like it would be like, in our culture now we have this racism divide, like us against them, people of color against the non-people of color, or Jews against this religion or that religion against that religion. we're about, let's help all of us. We're all human. Let's all help everyone. But what was amazing about the Samaritan is he put the guy on his donkey, he took him to an inn because they didn't have hospitals back then. He left some money, but he said, I'll come back. Did he say, the old me would have been like, oh, I better stay with this guy, make sure he survives. I better bring 3 meals a day, I better call his family. No, he says, I will come back. If you need more, I'll help more. But he had good boundaries because he knew he had a responsibility. He had to go do his work. So he went and he left and he was okay with it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that is true. He does have good boundaries. So I just love that story, is that we're taught in our society to be loving, being kind. But kindness can say, no, that's all I can do. I'll come back and do follow-up if I need to. So I just love that story. Okay, so moving on. These are some examples of boundaries. One is skin, right? That's the first way we learn boundaries is when you're little. I remember with my kids, I never forced my kids to hug people they didn't want to hug. Because that's their skin, that's their body. Don't force that on our kids, right? So skin also keeps all our bacteria out, keeps our body healthy, right? Words, such as saying yes or no. Those are some examples. Geographic distance. So I have a really good friend that I only see once a year, and that's why we've been friends for 45 years. 50 years now, actually, right? So, and I'll see her next month. But we're best friends, probably because we only see each other once a year. So geographic distance, right? Time, right? Sometimes you just need a break from certain friends, relationships, marriages, partners, even your mother or your father. Sometimes you just need that time away. Emotional distance. So I have people who have some types of mental illness. So sometimes I just need an emotional break, and I'm not gonna go into being that close to them emotionally for a season when they're being a little bit triggering for me. So that's emotional. Allowing consequences, letting people, if they want to drink, they might get a DUI. If they want to use substance, they might get arrested. They might hurt their bodies. You got to let people suffer the consequences. Or people go, Kumi, I need a babysitter. I didn't get. That's your problem, not mine. Really, right? I didn't say that. It is. Why didn't you plan earlier, right? Oh, can you watch my kids for spring break because I forgot to find someone? No, they didn't forget. They knew I would say yes, right? So. Anyway, that's allowing consequences. If I had said no, I bet you they would have learned their lesson. Okay. Types of boundaries to build, right? So these are things that we're going to be working. I'll explain it a little bit more in detail. So we need to build and grow our feelings, understanding our feelings, attitudes and beliefs, behaviors, choices, values, limits, talents, thoughts and desires, and love. And I'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail. So this is the feelings, right? So feelings are so important about our boundaries, but can you guys look at all these lists of feelings and tell me which feelings are bad feelings? Anybody can raise their hand and tell me which feelings are bad. Stress. I thought maybe we'll do feeling charade. So when I go back to this feeling list, and what I want you to do is pick a feeling, and you're going to try to express it without using any words. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. So if I'm partnering with Katie, I'll be lost. There we go, lost. Okay, you got that. Okay, and then you flip-flop, okay? So we're going to take a couple of minutes, break up into groups. So this is another way to connect to your feelings. These are some things that I do. These are some great recommendations. We all know, we hear it all the time. But do we do it? What I encourage you is really try to do at least one, is when we want to connect to our feelings, it's really good to write it down. Like sometimes just typing is okay, like on the keyboard. Sometimes I'll do it on my mobile device because it has a microphone. Sometimes I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm just really irritable. And then after a while, I'll start to realize, oh yeah, that's because this person always takes advantage of me. And eventually I get to my feelings, right? But it's even better to actually get the pen and writing it on paper. Somehow there's some magic that happens in that process of slowing down and writing things out. So So journaling, that's why we wanted to give you this journal to take home and to write out your feelings when you're not sure, right? The other thing that I do when I'm not sure why I'm so irritable, why I'm so edgy, or why is that person bothering me, is to just breathe, right? And there's so many different ones. The easiest one to teach is the box breath, which is, we'll do it together really quick. Breathe in for 4 count, hold for 4 count, breathe out for 4 count, hold for 4 count. So I'm going to do it with my fingers, okay? All right, let's go. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. One more time. Breathe in, hold, out, hold. So you do that 4 times, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, getting back into my body, get out of my head, get into the body, and sometimes that helps. Stop and think, what am I feeling? Oftentimes we'll just go through the day, I don't know why they piss me off, and then you just go on with your next task. We don't even stop to think, why did that person bother me? So stopping and thinking, sometimes I'll just write it. I have a whole, in my phone, I have notes, and I have a list, a running list. When people bother me, or when I get upset, sometimes I don't know at the moment, I'll just write it out, and later on I'll go, I'll stop. Because they always do that. They always show up last minute without warning, and I have to drop everything for them. You know, so sometimes writing it out, stopping and checking in with yourself. Check your body is another great one. So for me, I always didn't even know what I was feeling a lot of times, because we were taught to be quiet, right? Like Linda said, right, before women's lib, we women had to be the sweet, subservient type. So we were all taught, don't show your feelings, be polite, be nice, right? And we gotta stop and feel. And I'm like, where am I feeling the pain? Oh, I have stiff shoulder, I have stomach ache, right? So again, I just lost my mom 2 weeks ago, and my husband has the worst stomach ache. I don't know why. I said, because you're grieving, honey. That's where you're going to grieve. Sometimes it's in the stomach. So, that's why I made the smoothie for him in the morning. And sometimes it's a headache. If you're getting chronic migraines, chronic stomach ache, stiffness. So sometimes I'll just do some like stretching, just simple stretching, and then sometimes the emotions come. Just by stretching, I'll start to tear up, and sometimes I'll start weeping, because I've been holding this feeling all morning, all day, and then when I stretch, it's like, release, right? Walking, yoga, stretching, meditation, prayer, if you like doing that type of thing, or if that's part of your life. Asking the trusted counselor, friends and family members. So don't talk to the person who oversteps your boundaries about that, because, ask someone who has healthy boundaries. What do you think about this, right? All right. So the second thing on that list was attitudes and beliefs. And everyone has different beliefs, whether you are a faith person, agnostic, atheist. Atheist is a belief, right? Agnostic is a belief. If you're a vegan, you have a certain belief. If you're a pescatarian, you have a certain belief, right? So everyone has values and beliefs that they are very important to them. So belief is something that you believe in to be true. What are some beliefs that you have? Anybody want to share some beliefs that they feel are very valuable to them? Karma, right? Also, old school way, some people will say the law of reaping and sowing. If you plant a seed, you plant a tomato seed, right? A tomato's gonna sprout. So the law of reaping and sowing, that behaviors have consequences. You reap what you sow, karma, right? So it's like, if you allow people to live out their consequences, then they're going to learn their lesson, right? And it's when we say no, if somebody says to you last minute, oh my gosh, last minute, you know what? When somebody needs genuine help, it's a different thing, okay? When it's a genuine help, but it's like this constant, like, oh, I want to go to a movie and I forgot to find our babysitter. Can you do it? They don't have to go to a movie. That's not an emergency, right? Sorry, no can, right? And then they go, oh shoot, Kumi declined. I better ask a week in advance. They're gonna remember that next time, right? So allowing people to reap what they sow. Okay? The next one is choices. We need to take responsibility for our own choices. Let other people make responsibility for their own choices. As adults, we have choices. We shouldn't let our loved one or our cousin or our spouses or our moms and dads or whomever tell us what to do. We have choices. You shouldn't feel like you don't have a choice. We all have choices. So when somebody says, I don't have a choice, you do have a choice. But sometimes we don't know what those choices are, and that's what we'll talk about. So these are values, right? What we value is what we love and assign importance to. I think I mixed that up with the first one. Limits, we all have limits, and we need to set those limits. And the single mom, going to school, all of that, right? You looking back, don't you wish you set a little bit more limits, right? I mean, we'll get there.
No. I don't.
Well, we all have limits, and for me, I didn't set right limits, and then my body crashed. I don't ever want that for anybody else. So we have limits. We each have talents too, and talents are part of building our boundaries. It's like, are you using your talents, your gifts, the things that you're good at to help others, right? Thoughts and desires. We must own our thoughts. Think for yourself. Do you accept everyone else's idea and not express your own? So when I was a person without boundaries, I never made the decision where to eat at the restaurant. Anywhere. Now I'll say, my friend goes, oh, Kumi, let's go to lunch. I go, yep, I want to go to this restaurant. I'll just say it. Next time I let her pick, but it's not always up to them anymore. When my husband and I used to do date night, always the same Chinese. It's always Chinese, Zippy's, Gracie's, always the same. Right? Now I say, no, we're going to Thai today. We're going to Vietnamese. I'll choose sometimes. Love, right? Give and accept love is the greatest gift of all, but you got to also be willing to give love, but you have to also be willing to receive love, and that's part of healthy boundaries. Is your outflow and your inflow balanced? So why is it so hard to say no? Majority of the reason is because it's fear-based. A lot of it is fear-based. Fear of hurting someone's feelings, fear of abandonment, a wish to be dependent on another person, fear of someone's anger. I think that was for me. I was afraid of making my mother mad. I was afraid of losing her love for me, right? Being punished by her because I was being quote-unquote selfish, which I wasn't. And then fear of your own strict and critical conscience, like some of you have mentioned, it's our own selves, like we're perfectionists, or we feel we could do better, we could do more, right? Fear of being shamed. I'm not going to go through all of this because we're running out of time, but there are, I will send these to you it was like how are boundaries built. You can study on your own when I send the slides. But what I wanted to focus on is how to say no. That's the key point today. Is we might go a little over time, but I want us to break up again into pairs, and I want us to practice saying no. The best phrase that I learned is, it's not right for me right now. If you say, I'm busy, well, when are you not busy is a reply people give you. Oh, I have too much on my plate. But it's not till 2 months from now, right? Or, oh, I just don't have time. Well, maybe you can just do half of it. There's always a response given. If you say, I don't have the money, well, we can do installments, when the salesman comes, right? So the best thing that works, it's not right for me right now. And they have no rebuttal. Okay, so we're going to pair up and have everybody take a few minutes to practice saying no. So there's a list of no statements here that I found on a social media post that I copied and rewrote for us, but you can do that, or you can do your own. But what I want you to do is person number one will think of something hard, they have a hard time saying no to, and share with the other person, and second partner two, And then the second person will ask that person to do that very thing. So for instance, I'll say, I have a hard time saying no when somebody asks for a donation or like a charity. I have a hard time, right? So then Marilyn will say, Kumi, would you donate $1,000 to my heart walk? Right? I'll say, it's not right for me right now. Now flip flop, okay? Or I can give $20. That I'm comfortable, right? So whatever you feel comfortable. So then you flip flop and do it again. So we'll take a few minutes, pair up in your groups again. I want you to find that one thing that you have a hard time saying no, share with your partner. That person's gonna ask you that very question and you have to give them a reply with one of the statements or create your own. But what I want is for you to start thinking about how do you say no to something. Could be really fast or a couple of minutes. There's a problem, you gotta find what the problem is, name it, right? Ask yourself what happened in the past that makes you doubt, feel guilty, or fear. So when, again, sometimes we don't even know what the problem is, but when somebody irritates you or kind of makes you feel yucky, write it down and you might have to process it later. But stop and think, like, why does that bother me? Oh, because my mother was very controlling. So when someone controls me, I feel this, like that, you know? So that, try and think, why do you feel guilty? Why do you have fear, right? Look for support system like this. Don't you feel supported when somebody across from the table is like smiling at you and saying, yeah, good job, right? This is what it's about. NAMI's about that. Samaritan Counseling's about that. Community is so important, right? Practice with your community. So there are some great resources, and I'll share that in a bit. Practice saying no to the bad, yes to the good. So practice, practice, practice. Forgive yourself, right? You gotta forgive yourself, be kind to yourself. I give myself hugs all the time. Good job, I do this. And I heard there's like a neurological thing about doing that.
Yes.
Yeah? So I was just doing that, but anyway. Expect some pushback. Again, some people may not like it, but the people that really care will change and adjust. So my mother was not happy when I set boundaries with her. She cried. When I set boundaries with my husband, he had to move out temporarily. But he came back a different man because he was willing to work, right? So if there are people who love you, they're going to work and adjust to you. But if they don't, you don't need them in your life. Be proactive, learn to love, seek, and you will find, don't give up. That's the biggest one of all. Don't give up. You just keep seeking. So for me, it's been decades working on this. Therapy, lots of different therapists, books upon books upon books, journaling upon journaling, volumes of journaling. So, just keep working on it. What does it look like when you have progress? Progress looks like you're going to feel angry a little bit, right? And I like that you said serious self-preservation. That's so valuable. There's going to be that season where you're gonna just need time for yourself, and you're gonna have to feel some of that frustration, some resentment, some anger. But when you start to get healthy, you're gonna be drawn to other people with healthy boundaries. Right? So now I have friends who understand when I say no, they go, "Good for you, Kumi." I like that, right? Whereas other people just get mad at me. But the real good friends will say, "Good for you." You're resting, self-caring, right? Then take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself will be a priority. So I start my day with exercise, meditation, prayer, Bible reading, all those good things, right? Saying no will become easier and easier. Oprah Winfrey taught me this. If you're not sure, remember, not sure, the first two letters, no. If you're not sure, it means no. So I just do that all the time. No right now, but I might change my mind. Okay? You will have guilty feelings, but they will lessen over time. You love it when others set boundaries too. Like when other people set boundaries, right? I'm like, yay, good for you. And I love it when people tell me no. I love that. And you're free to say no, and you're free to say yes. So when you say yes, you enjoy it. When I say yes, I do it with all my heart, no reservation. And you start to set new goals for your life, right? Okay. So I'm gonna, here's some tips for that might help you for future, like if you want more help. Some things that may help you if you have substance related relationships, Al-Anon might help. There's a faith-based Celebrate Recovery. There are faith groups, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Catholic, whatever. There are groups that you can find in your own faith. There's NAMI support groups, practicing self-care. You're going to make some mistakes and try again. Get help if you need it. There are counselors who specialize in boundaries. There's some really good ones out there. This is a book that I got a lot of this information from. Again, I read this 6 times. This author has a boundary support group. Facebook, I believe, is free, but there's another online resource that you can join that is a monthly fee, but I'm not promoting it in any way. If it fits for you, go for it. But YouTube is really great. Katie Morton, she does a YouTube video tutorial, just a regular family counselor, but she's so honest and transparent. She talks a lot about boundaries. There's some great TED Talks on YouTube. Another one, Lisa Turkish, another great lecturer on the topic. NAMI is here for you. We are mental health related. We have free support groups and classes for you if you're interested. And then we're done. I'm sorry we had